Thank you. Afternoon, everybody. Thanks for attending. I was a bit worried after the last session when everyone left, so thank you for attending. I'm Lee from Validis. We're a software company that focuses on data extraction. So what we do is we help lenders improve the speed and accuracy of their lending process, predominantly for their kind of commercial corporate client base. So what do? I have no PowerPoints, you'll be glad to know. So from our website, what we do. So we extract data automatically from the underlying company's accounting systems. So we link directly into the data tables of, say, Sage or QuickBooks and extract that into our own systems. Once we have that, into the cloud, that information is interrogated and standardized. And I guess the key point there is it's standard. And that means you can do peer-to-peer analysis and benchmarking across your client base, irrespective of whether they're an engineering company on Sage or a design company on Xero in a different country. Once we have that data, it then enables us to run a whole range of different in-depth analysis and reports. This can either come through our own portal, which I'll demonstrate quickly in a few minutes, or it can come through a data feed or an API, which many of our lenders use today. So just underlying that fact, if I click onto Lenders Portal, so this is the pain that I guess people go through today. So most of our lending clients and their underlying clients have this spaghetti junction of data points. So if you're an SME today, you submit your data into your lender in various different formats, which generally means you export it from your accounting system. You have to reformat it, cut and paste it, put it into a PDF or an email. It's slow, it's unsecure, and time costly. On the other end, when you're a lender and you receive the information, you have to compile that data, put it into the right format. It takes a long time, it takes days. So for the end SME, the lending decision takes potentially weeks. With Validis, it's automated straight-through process. We extract data out digitally, directly from the source. We bring it into the hub where we standardize it, and then we pass the data through to the lender in either a direct data feed or through our own portal. So that's what we do, and I think in the remaining few minutes, I will go through and give you a quick demo. So I'm going to play two roles today. First of all, I'm going to play the role of the SME, looking for finance. So I'll be logging on to a made-up lending portal here, Validis Finance. I've already put my details in terms of the amount I'm looking to borrow. So I've logged onto this lending portal. And at this point here, my lender has asked me to submit my accounts for further verification and approval. So rather than doing all the paper-based process before, I sign into the portal, and within a few clicks, I can submit my data. So this is our standard portal. It's generally white-labeled for clients, so what you're seeing today is just a demo. So I'm going to go through and submit my data. So I've only got July data in my database, so I'll go through and submit that. The way we connect the underlying accounting application, it varies. If it's a cloud-based application, it's very straightforward. It's an API to API connection. If it's an offline platform, like Sage or QuickBooks, for example, which majority of the market's still on, we have to run a Java connector, which I'll run right now. That connector links to the underlying accounting application and starts to extract data out from the data tables. In order to be able to do that, we need to get permission. So in this case here, I have some dummy data. I'm putting in a username and password. In this case here, I'm using a default set of a chart of accounts. And that process is now off and running. This generally takes a couple of minutes. And what we're doing is taking out the entire transactional history from that underlying accounting application and sending it into the hub. As it takes a few minutes, I'm going to skip through to one I made earlier. Otherwise, it's quite a dull presentation. So once that information has been extracted, I'm now playing the role of the lender. So as a lender, I get a summary on each client. So this is the kind of the front window here. You can see high-level dashboard. I get to see income statement for the client, balance sheet. There's various reports I can download. And I get some scoring, which I'll come back to in a second. I also get to see some trend analysis on the P&L. And something which is proprietary to us is the quality score. And what this gives is an indication of the quality of the bookkeeping or accounting at the underlying client. And what some of our lenders use this data for is, I guess, a correlation with how well the accounts are prepared correlates with how well the business is being run. And we can provide this in a score through our data feed as well. As you can see above here, there are some things that have been highlighted for us to pay attention to. Some covenants have been broken, and some other areas we might look into. So if we now zoom up to the top of the page, a couple of things I'll show you. So if you set up some covenants to monitor your existing client base, you can run that scan past the data we've just extracted. So in this case here, you can see those items highlighted in red give you the exceptions you need to monitor. So rather than having to look at every single client on a monthly basis or quarterly, whatever that may be, you just need to look at the exceptions. And each of these things, you can set your own parameters and run those however you wish. If I go back to the reporting dashboard, quite a lot of reports you can run. I'll start from the top and work around the dial. I've got about 4 minutes to do that. So if I start at the top of the page with financial reports, this gives you standardized canned reports effectively for each of your underlying corporate customers. You start off with the balance sheet, profit and loss, and cash flow, all in the same format, irrespective of where that's come from. The one most of our lenders like to see is the financial snapshot, because it gives the high-level financial indicators from the P&L and balance sheet, but also gives some of the key ratios that people plug into their internal systems. If I then go back, I think where you see the real detail that we've extracted is on the accounting reports here. So we've extracted the entire general ledger of information from the underlying accountancy package on behalf of the SME. If I blank this out and start again, I can put in multiple years. In this case here, I'm doing the balance sheet. But actually, I could show you on the P&L as well. If I put a variance on here, you can see that I've got this entire data set here of the underlying SME in a matter of minutes. And I can drill into that in as much detail as I want. So underwriters generally love this platform because it means they can find all the information at hand without having to go back to the client, so you're kind of getting it right first time. So effectively, you can drill into each of these lines as much as you want. So in this case here, 30,000 spent on admin costs seems interesting, so we'll drill into that. We see there's 14,000 spent on books, which seems odd. So I can then drill into that and find out every single transaction in the system. So for an underwriter or for an auditor looking at this information, you can really drill into it and see exactly what's underlying in those financial statements. All this information you're seeing on the screen can also be sent via an API or a data feed as well. So that's your general ledger financial statements. We also have the debtors and creditors. So particularly if you're an invoice financing firm, this is obviously very important. If this is the collateral you're basing your loans on. I think a popular report we like to show is the debtor movements report. So in this case here, the underlying SME that you may be financing, you can actually see their entire list of debtors in many different shapes and forms. And everything you see on here can be drilled into again. So if I pick one here, I can see the entire history for this underlying customer of your customer and see all their transactions. And again, I can drill down. And from that, I can see when that invoice was issued and when it was paid. You can get that data in aggregate. So if you want to run trend analysis on the payment dates per customer or an overall picture, you can get all that information in a few minutes. We get asked about fraud quite a lot. Obviously, we're only as good as the information we extract from the systems, but as it's coming from source, it's less open to manipulation. We also show some reports that will give you some indications of fraud. So, for example, if the FD from the underlying SME is trying to beef up their revenue and they've put in some false invoices, likelihood is it will actually create some duplicate invoice numbers. So we flag all those to you as well through this system. On the flip side, we also get to show the creditor reports. So these would be your SME's suppliers. So one of the tests that we get asked a lot is, can you show me concentration risk in the suppliers of my customer? In this case here, you can see one. It's Banand Imports, makes up by far the largest amount of the book for this underlying customer. And so again, you can drill into each of these things and you can see, have these suppliers been paid on a regular basis? You may want to do further credit checks on these suppliers to ensure that if they go under, your company is still safe. And I guess finally, we also provide insight into the banking transactions from the general ledger. So what some of our clients do is correlate what we have in the accounting system, in the bank details here, with what's actually coming through from the actual bank statements and the bank feeds. So we can show some trends and analysis on the banks themselves, and we can also provide the VAT information as well. So a lot of lenders today are taking multiple data feeds in, but generally aren't taking accounting information in. So what we can provide is that deep data on accounts, then can be plugged into an internal system alongside VAT information, bank information, credit scores, and so on. So in summary, that's what we do. We extract data, we standardize it, and then we analyze it. I have 30 seconds left for questions. Please.
Sorry, just a moment.
Thank you. My question is the following. Do your clients normally work with the reclassified financial scheme you provide, or can they customize them? I mean, you have a certain profit and loss which have been mapped on the ledger, but can the client customize it?
They can. We have a thing called a chart of accounts editor. So we have a standardized mapping where we translate the transaction levels in each accounting system into a standard set of chart of accounts, international accounting standards or US GAAP, for example. But if you want to map those to a different format, in a chart of accounts editor, you can map them however you see fit, and it remembers it on a per client basis, so you can change it.
So finally, does it mean that the single user is able to change in real time the way a certain item is reclassified? So let's say I import an item which is reclassified as variable cost, and I want to put it in the fixed cost in an income statement prospect. Is that feasible?
It's feasible on the receiver of information because the receiver is the person that actually edits the chart of accounts. So the end customer that's loading data in can't manipulate the accounts for their own benefit and change things around. It's on the lender that gets to do that action. Yep.
Great. Thanks very much.
That's it.
That's time.
Thank you.